today's practice is going to be a nice little evening flow. So just a really nice way to prepare ourselves to get ready for bed and to just move the body a little bit and then really ground our energy. So that means that our practice is going to be all closer towards the earth. We're not going to be doing too much standing stuff. We're just going to keep things really just kind of juicy and slow and just go with it. So get some comfy clothes on, maybe even some pajamas, light some candles, maybe a cup of tea, and we'll get started in child's pose. So let's just take our time, bringing the knees apart, bring the toes together, and then just allow the hips to sink back towards your heels. And before you find yourself fully into the pose, just find just a little sway from side to side of your hips, and just allow eventually the forehead to land on your mat. Or you can even stack your hands or place a block or a pillow underneath your forehead. And just inviting in about 3 nice big deep breaths. Let's invite that full inhale to fill up into your spine. Full exhale out through your mouth. Just taking a couple more of those. Feeling those inhales creating some space into your body. And then finding your exhales to release the day. Release any tension. And once you've completed that last cycle of breath here, just begin to breathe in and out through your nose. You might find your Ujjayi pranayama allowing the breath to travel down the back of your throat if it's in your practice. Noticing each breath just gets slower, longer, more complete, even with those exhales. Finding that effortless ease. Let's take one last cycle of breath in this shape. If you have your hands underneath your forehead, allow them to crawl forward. Reaching towards the top of your mat, finding length through your spine, the sides of your waist. Take an inhale as you begin to rise on up into your tabletop. And then arrange your knees underneath your hips. And then glide your hands underneath your shoulders. Tenting your right fingertips, let's take an inhale, reach the right arm up towards the sky, opening up through the right side of your chest. And then as you exhale, begin to dive that right arm underneath the left arm, finding your right cheek to the mat, and then crawling your left fingertips towards the front of your room. Breathing into that shoulder. Shifting your hips back, perhaps just 1 centimeter to 1 inch here. Maybe the eyes close. You might even find that a lot of this practice can be done with the eyes shut down. Let's take one more complete breath here. And a full exhale. Gently begin to glide your left hand back in front of your face, rooting through that palm. On your next inhale, begin to reach on up towards the sky, opening up again to that right side of the chest. Exhale, release that hand down. You're going to find that on the other side. tenting your left fingertips. Inhale, we open up wide. Maybe the gaze even shifts up towards the ceiling. Exhale, we loop that arm underneath and through, finding the left cheek, the left temple to the mat. And then maybe you crawl the right hands forward towards the top of your mat. Couple generous breaths right here into that shoulder. Last breath. Gently, that right hand comes back in front of the face. Begin to root into the palm, and inhale takes you on up to reach on up to the sky. Exhale, release your hand down to the earth. Let's take one round of cat-cow. Inhale, find your belly to drop, the gaze to shift up to the sky. Exhale, rounding out your spine, chin to chest, navel draws in. Inhale, find your way back to neutral, tuck your toes, and exhale your way into your first downward facing dog of this practice. And we'll just take a few petals here of the heels, making sure the hands are spread nice and wide through those fingers. Again, maybe you close the eyes to really feel out the shape. Begin to find your stillness. On your next inhale, begin to lift your right leg up. As you exhale, stack that hip, bend that knee, and then find both hands equally rooted into the mat. So right shoulder steers down, finding some space into the back of that left leg, that left calf. Inhale, square the hip back off. As you exhale, step through to the top of the mat and surrender that left knee down. Inhale, sink down with your hips, the heart comes forward. Make sure your front knee is right over top of that ankle. Let's take a breath here into that left hip flexor, the left hip. Take another inhale. And then as you exhale, begin to walk the hands back as you peel the right toes up to the sky, Ardha Hanumanasana, half split. Draw the right hip back, the left hip forward, and then finding that kind of bowing over the right leg to your own degree here. Full inhale and exhale. On your next inhale, root back into that right foot. And then as you exhale, straighten out once again through that right leg. One more. Inhale, sink in. Exhale, draw it back. Inhale, sink it on in, lifting up your back leg. And then as you exhale, we'll step forward into our first forward fold, finding your feet hip distance apart, spilling the upper body over those legs. Let's become really nice and passive here. Flip your palms up, backs of the hands rest onto the earth, and then really bring that generous bend into your knees so you can find the ribs resting on the thighs. Full weight of the head, releasing down towards the mat. On your next inhale, glide your hands up your shins, Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift, lengthen out your spine, navel stays in, exhale, bowing forward. Soften your knees, slowly begin to roll your way up to stand, one vertebra at a time, head coming up last, shoulders backing down. Inhale, reach on up to the sky. Exhale, bow forward, find that fold. Half lift, inhale, lengthen on out. As you exhale, root your palms, step one foot back, and then the other to find your plank. Shoulders over top of those wrists. Gaze is straight down to the mat. A softness and buoyancy through the elbows. Take your knees down to the earth as you inhale. Keep your toes tucked under. As you exhale, shift your hips back towards your heels. Inhale, glide forward through your cat back. So think of really rounding out, bringing the hips forward, pausing in a modified plank. As you exhale, lower all the way down, unraveling your toes. Inhale, find a cobra, Bhujangasana, really small back bend. Exhale, lower your heart back down to the mat. Two more. Inhale, peel your heart forward and up. Exhale, bowing forward. Last one. On your next inhale, tuck the toes and press your way back up. As you exhale, find your way into downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, stack that hip, bend that knee. And then find the left shoulder steering down, just squaring the shoulders off to the mat. Inhale, square that hip back off. As you exhale, step it through, top of the mat, lower that right knee down. Inhale, sink in. Once again, that front knee is right over top of that ankle. We're finding some space into the front of that right hip. Just finding just that extra breath right here. Take an inhale. As you exhale, begin to straighten out through the left leg, toes up to the sky. Steer the right hip back, left hip forward, right hip forward, left hip back. Get those left and rights going on here. Left toes to the sky. Completing that breath. On your next inhale, we root back into that front foot. Exhale, we flow it back once again. Inhale, sinking in. Exhale, glide it back. Inhale it in, sinking back into that left foot. Lift up your right knee. And then step forward once again into your fold. This time, maybe you find a little bit more space to straighten out the legs a bit more. Just making sure that we're only going to that degree that is not overdoing it, right? This is about just breathing space into the body, not forcing space into the body. On your next inhale, halfway lift, lengthen out your spine. Exhale, folding back in. Soften your knees, roll yourself up. Inhale, reaching up to the sky. Exhale, bowing back into that fold. Inhale, find your half lift. Exhale to your plank. Inhaling your knees down to the mat. Remember the toes stay tucked under. Exhale, glide your hips back towards your heels. Inhale, glide forward. Exhale, lower down. Untuck your toes. Take an inhale, find your cobra. We're finding those 3 cobra breaths here. Exhale, lower the heart back down. 2 more. Inhale, shine the heart. Exhale, lower down. Last one. tucking your toes. Inhale, back up. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, find your right leg to lift. As you exhale, find your right knee to right wrist, planting your right foot towards your left wrist. Sliding that left leg back, finding your pigeon pose. Unravel that back foot. Squaring through the hips, making sure we're not dropping all the way over towards the right side, that we're keeping ourselves relatively centered here. Take an inhale. As you exhale, we begin to bring the elbows down to the mat. Maybe you bring a block underneath your right hip. Maybe you bring a block or a pillow underneath your forehead. And we'll just take a few deep breaths here into that right side. Complete breath. Full inhale. Full exhale. Begin to find the hands back underneath the shoulders. Hooking those left toes under, begin to press the mat away to find your way into downward facing dog once again. Take an inhale, glide forward like a wave into your plank. Take your right knee down to the mat and pivot that right foot out onto the floor with the toes tucked. Pressing into your right hand, left foot pivots so the toes point towards the left side of your mat, and we'll take the left arm up to the sky, finding kind of a modified side plank. Reaching up towards the sky, take an inhale. As you exhale, reaching that left arm towards the top of your mat, finding some space into the left side of your body. Inhale, reach that left arm back up. Exhale, hand comes back down to the mat. Pivot your feet so that once again, they're finding your way into your plank. Knees can drop. Inhale, glide forward. Exhale, lower down. Unravel your feet. Find your hands tented on the wood floor, spider tipping your fingers. On your next inhale, think of lifting your sternum forward and then up. Pressing into those big toe mounds, really rooting into the tops of your feet so the kneecaps are lifted. Breathe. Take an inhale. Exhale, one rib at a time. Slowly begin to lower yourself back down. Take the hands back underneath the shoulders. Tuck your toes under. Press your way up into your plank, your tabletop, and then downward facing doggy knee. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, find your left knee to the left wrist. The foot comes towards the right wrist. Drag your right knee back. Unravel your toes. And then begin to settle into your pigeon on this side. So I didn't mention this on the other side, but if you do have any knee stuff and this doesn't feel super awesome for you, you can find your way onto your back and thread the needle instead. Okay? So when you're ready, if you're ready, bring your forearms to the mat. Maybe again a prop underneath the left hip or underneath your forehead here. And we'll just begin to breathe into the left side, that left hip. Anytime that we have that opportunity to take a pause in our practice, we can really center in on that breath, the quality of the breath, and really begin to direct it where it needs to go. So if you're finding there's quite a bit of intensity into that left hip today, you can really direct that breath into that hip, just sending a little love to your body. Let's take 3 more breaths on the side here. Okay, my friends, when you're ready, invite the hands underneath the shoulders, hook your right toes under, really begin to press the mat away, find your way into your downward facing dog. And on your next inhale, we float forward like that wave, finding your way into your plank. Lower the left knee down, pivot it off onto the floor, tuck your toes under. You can cushion your left knee if you like. Pivot your right foot so the toes point towards the right. And then take your right hand up to the sky as you inhale. Full breath in. As you exhale, begin to reach towards the top of your mat, sending ribs up towards the ceiling, creating some space here into the right side of your body. Inhale, reach it up. Exhale, release your hand down to the mat. Pivot everything to square back up. Both toes are tucked under, finding your way into your plank. Now remember the option to take your knees down. Lower all the way down to your belly. Untuck your toes. Take your hands behind you this time. Interlace your fingers, or if that's not quite achievable today, you can also just reach your arms back down by your sides with the palms facing down. Going to move into Shalabhasana Locust. So you can have the hands interlaced or not. Gazes down to the mat for the time being. Just draw the navel in. And then on your next inhale, begin to lift the heart, sending your hands, your fists towards your heels, towards the back of your mat. And then maybe you float your feet. Steady breath. Keep the back of your neck nice and long. Take an inhale. As you exhale, surrender everything back on down. Hands glide back underneath the shoulders. Tuck the toes. Press back up to plank or table. Bring the knees down to the mat. Crawl them forward. Cross your ankles behind you. And then roll over your legs to find them extended out in front of you. And just give them a quick little shake out here. We're almost done. We're getting there. Finding a flex through your feet. You can sit up on a block if you like here. You can also bring a nice generous bend into your knees if you're quite tight in the hamstrings. Let's take an inhale. Reach on up to the sky. As you exhale, bow forward, reaching to the feet, the ankles, the calves. Maybe your hands land on each side of your legs. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to take a few breaths here into the backs of the legs, the low back. Take your gaze down towards your shins. When you're ready, my friends, we're going to take our time just rolling out, articulating and stacking each vertebra. Bend your knees, shift yourself so you're into the center of your mat. We're gonna roll on down. We're gonna finish off with a nice juicy twist. And then Shavasana, just in time for bedtime. Bring yourself down. Take your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a moment here just to land. Notice the crown of the head to the tail, just connecting into the mat. It's a little bit of a rounding here in the low back. It's all good. Feels good. And then maybe a little rock from side to side. Releasing one foot and then the other down to the earth. And we're gonna heel toe those feet mat distance apart. Bring your arms out to T with the palms facing down. And just consciously release your shoulders. Take an inhale. Then as you exhale, let's just take the knees over towards the right. So this is a wide-legged twist. You can always take it a little further by taking your right foot and placing it on your left knee or left thigh. Just being mindful here that if there's any intensity or too much intensity into the low back or into that left hip, then you're just going to release that foot off your knee. Take an inhale here. And if you like here, the exhale can take your gaze towards the left. Take the gaze back up towards the sky. Slide your foot off your knee if you've taken that variation. Inhale the knees back up to center, and then as you exhale, just shift them over to the other side. With the same offerings going here. You place that foot on your knee, your thigh. You can take the gaze towards the right hand. Gaze back towards the ceiling. Begin to take that foot off your leg if you found it there. Find your way back to center as you inhale. As you exhale, one last squeeze of the knees in towards the chest. Perhaps even taking the forehead in towards your knees. And then slowly we begin to surrender into that final shape of Shavasana. You might decide to grab a blanket and throw it on, getting yourself nice and cozy, maybe a pillow underneath the head. And just begin to relax into the support here of the earth. No more poses to do. Just get nice and heavy. Full inhale in through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out. Beginning to bring some movement back into your body, moving slowly. We'll gently begin to bend into the knees. And take your left arm up overhead and then roll yourself over to your left side. Pause here for a breath or two. Using your right hand now to press into the mat and gently begin to find your way into your tall seat. Resting your hands onto your thighs, rooting into your sit bones, getting nice and heavy through the hips, the knees, the lower body. Keeping your eyes closed, float your hands to your heart. Bowing your mind. Wishing you a peaceful slumber, my friends. Sleep well. Until next we meet. Namaste.